Welcome to Truth in Christ, everyone. I am so glad that you could join me for another great message. Today, we're going to be talking about the song of the 24 elders and the 4 beasts. Now, this song is highly misunderstood and is about the saints who lived through the tribulation. Now, I know if you are a dispensationalist, you're probably disagreeing, shaking your head right now, but bear with me because this requires some textual criticism. Now, I did a video on the 24 elders a while back. I will leave a link in the description box down below, and the evidence that I present in that video shows that the 24 elders is a heavenly Sanhedrin, a type of celestial council. In fact, if you look at Strong's and Thayer's, they both agree that the 24 elders is in fact a heavenly council or some type of celestial heavenly Sanhedrin. Now, I'm not going to recap everything about the 24 elders being a celestial council in this video. I really just want to focus on the song and show irrefutably that it is, in fact, about the saints who lived through the tribulation. But before I continue, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down below, turn on that notification bell, set it to all, like, share, comment. Every interaction with this channel will help this channel out in the YouTube algorithm. Also, you can give us a super thanks if you really like this video or become a Romans 9:1 supporter, which I will talk about later in this video. Now that we kind of got the housekeeping out of the way, let's look at the song of the 24 elders and the 4 beasts. Now, you will find this in Revelation, the 5th chapter, the 8th through the 10th verse. And it says, when he, this is Jesus Christ, when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints, and they sung a new song. Now look at this. They have the prayers of the saints that are going to be offered up to God later on, but it says that this is the prayers of the saints, and they sung a new song. So they're talking about the saints that are actually living through the tribulation. And it says they sung a new song, saying, "Thou art worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof, and thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God." And this is where people get confused, because they look at this passage where it says, "and hast redeemed us to God by the blood out of every kindred, tongue, and people and nation, and had made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth." And there are several reasons here why this is actually about the saints who go through the tribulation. So there's something that we need to do here. One, we need to do some cross-referencing, and we need to do some textual criticism. Textual criticism comes from when we start to compare manuscripts. But let's go back to the context of who is being redeemed. Let's look at the description of the people that are being sung about. Now, I know there's going to be people that's going to look at the part where it says, "redeemed us to God by the blood and made us unto our God kings and priests." But you got to remember something. Thayer's and Strong both identify the 24 elders as a heavenly council or some type of heavenly Sanhedrin. So there's something that people saw that the modern generation of dispensationalists do not see when it comes to the 24 elders. Let's look at the context. And as I said, we'll do some textual criticism. We'll explain the part where it says, "redeemed us to God and made us unto God kings and priests." You've just got to hold on a second. Don't rage quit. Hold on. Watch this video all the way through, and it will explain everything. The job of this channel is to try and teach people the absolute truth and teach everything in context. I would not be saying this if I could not back it up. Now let's go back to the prayers that the 24 elders and the 4 beasts are holding in these vials. So there's these golden vials, and these vials contain the prayers of the saints. And their song is about people who are redeemed by the blood out of every kindred, tongue, people, and nation. But then when we go back to Revelation, the 7th chapter, the saints who come through the tribulation are redeemed by the blood. They have washed their garments and made them white in the blood of the Lamb, and they are of every kindred, tongue, people, and nation. You see, the context alone would indicate that this is all about the people who are coming through the Great Tribulation. This is a song that they are singing about the people who are alive during the end. This song has nothing to do with the personal salvation of the 24 elders or the 4 beasts. It has nothing to do with that. But if I could just digress for a minute, let's talk about those golden vials that hold the prayers of the saints. If you go into Revelation, the 8th chapter, you're going to find that the prayers of the saints are offered up with incense prior to the plagues being poured out. Let me say that again. The prayers of the saints are offered up just prior to the plagues being poured out. Now, these vials contain the prayers of the saints who go through the tribulation. Now, keep in mind, in dispensational eschatology, the saints can only be the tribulation saints. It cannot be the bride of Christ, the church, who goes up in a pre-tribulation rapture. But yet we see that it is the prayers of the ones that they claim are left behind that are being offered just before the plagues begin. If this is a left behind group, why are these prayers being offered up before the plagues of the tribulation begin? So that leads us to some implications on the timing of when the plagues are actually going to be poured out, because this is a persecuted group. The persecution and the martyrdom of the saints who go through the Great Tribulation will be a part of the last 3.5 years before Christ's return, meaning dispensationalists have an awful lot of explaining to do with some inconsistencies when we actually look at the overall context. Really, the issue is also this narrative of, if you're left behind, if you don't believe in pre-tribulation rapture, if you don't believe in dispensationalism, if you don't go along with us, you're going to be left behind and you're going to suffer the wrath of God, these plagues that will come upon you if you do not believe our doctrine. This is not found in all of the book of Revelation. It never teaches that the plagues that are being poured out will target or persecute or harm the repentant saints. But instead we see that these prayers are being offered, and the incense in which is being offered up with the prayers of the saints is hurled towards the earth. It is after this that the plagues commence. Why is that? It's because the plagues are God's response to the prayers, the pleas, the cries of the saints that are being persecuted and martyred during the Great Tribulation. These plagues do not harm in any way the saints who live through the tribulation, because they are being persecuted and martyred. God is doing here what Paul said he would do in 2 Thessalonians, the 1st chapter. Whenever the church is being persecuted and put through tribulation because of this persecution, God will put through tribulation those who trouble his church. Again, the entire narrative falls apart when we just look at the context. But again, I'm digressing here. So the context here is that it is about individuals who are redeemed by the blood out of every kindred, people, tongue, and nation. And these people are revealed in Revelation, the 7th chapter, as a great multitude who came through the Great Tribulation. They have washed their garments and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. So they are redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. And they are of every people, kindred, tongue, and nation. The 4 beasts and the 24 elders in context are not singing about themselves. Now again, I get why people get confused on that part where it says redeemed us to God and has made us unto God kings and priests. I get that. I understand why that causes some confusion, but that's where the textual criticism comes in. When you look at many translations of the Bible and even the Codex Sinaiticus, you're going to notice a startling difference in that song. So let's look at verses 9 and 10 of Revelation 5 in just a few random translations. It says, "And they sang a new song, saying, Worthy art thou to take the book and to open the seals thereof, and thou wast slain, and did purchase unto God with thy blood men of every tribe, tongue, people, and nation." Notice it didn't say us. The English Revised Version doesn't say us. The Good News translation does not say us. Verse 10, the New Living Translation, the English Standard Version, and the Berean Standard Bible says, you have caused them to become a kingdom of priests for our God. You have made them a kingdom and priests to our God. You have made them to be a kingdom of priests to serve our God. Notice the absence of us, and in verse 10, we notice that the word them is inserted in the place of us. So now we have to ask ourselves, why is the phrase us being removed in verses 9 through 10, and them is being inserted in the place of us in verse 10? So the simple answer is, when scholars began to look at verses 9 and 10, in the older manuscripts, they noticed that the word us was being omitted. And then there was something interesting when we look at the Codex Sinaiticus. We notice a startling difference when we look at the 10th verse of the Codex Sinaiticus. Now, the Codex Sinaiticus is an older manuscript than the Textus Receptus, which the King James Version Bible is translated from. There are other manuscripts older than the Textus Receptus, which omit the word us. But now in the Codex Sinaiticus, if we look at the 9th verse, it starts off reading like the Textus Receptus. It says, didst redeem to God us in thy blood. But the 10th verse, instead of making us a kingdom of priests, or us kings and priests, as the King James Version translates it, it says, did make them a kingdom of priests. Now that is interesting. God made them a kingdom of priests, or them kings and priests, as the King James Version would have translated it. The Codex Sinaiticus, instead of the Greek word hemus, which is translated as us, we see the Greek word autos in the 10th verse, which is a third person plural that is translated as them, indicating that the older manuscripts are the original manuscript, as the term us is omitted, like Codex Alexandrinus. The word us is omitted. Hemus, the Greek word for us, is omitted in some of these older Greek manuscripts, and the Codex Sinaiticus in the 10th verse says them. So to sum up the song of the 24 elders and the 4 beasts, the context says that they are singing of individuals redeemed by the blood of every people, kindred, tongue, and nation. And when we look at Revelation, the 7th chapter, that's how the saints who come through the tribulation are described. They are redeemed by the blood. It says they have washed their garments and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. It also says that they are of every kindred, tongue, people, and nation. So the song that the 24 elders and 4 beasts was describing the people who come through the tribulation. But also, when we look at the older manuscripts, we notice that the word us is omitted in some of the older manuscripts, and in the Codex Sinaiticus, in the 10th verse, hemus, which is translated as us, is substituted with the word autos, meaning them. So when you look at everything in the context, there are 24 elders who are a heavenly council and 4 other angelic beings who are singing a song about the people who come through the tribulation and that they are redeemed by the blood. And it becomes a consistent interpretation. Whereas if you try to take the pre-tribulation rapture road and you try to say that the 24 elders is the church, you run into some inconsistencies and you have to do a lot of explaining. For one, just by the volume of people that are there, you're trying to tell me that there are more people who come through the tribulation saints, that are more worthy to stand in the presence of God than the raptured bride of Christ? Or are you trying to tell me that only 24 people were raptured? I mean, take your pick. Option A, option B. Either way, there's an inconsistency just by the volume of tribulation saints versus the raptured bride of Christ. Are you really trying to tell me that the saints who come through the tribulation are more worthy to stand in the presence of God than the raptured bride of Christ? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Also, why are the four beasts saying that they are redeemed by the blood out of every kindred, people, nation, and tongue? That doesn't make any sense. There are more angels standing in God's presence. There are thousands upon thousands of angels standing in the presence of God than the people who are a part of the raptured bride of Christ. Do you see the problem here with this interpretation? Again, I understand why they are confused. I even said in the last video on this topic that it would be this song that would confuse them. Now, thankfully, I was able to look at the Codex Sinaiticus. And again, this is one of the reasons why it is so important to support this channel. I can get my hands on resources and look at other things when I do my research, when I dive deeper, because I'll look at a topic. I don't look at it just once. I look at it over and over and over again. And now we have a more consistent understanding of the Song of the 24 Elders and the Four Beasts that doesn't run into the complications that the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine runs into. So in conclusion, the Song of the 24 Elders and the Four Beasts is about the saints who come through the tribulation because they are redeemed by the blood out of every kindred, people, nation, and tongue. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative and edifying. And as always say, like, share, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, set it to all. I am also on Rumble now, so if you want to go to Rumble, I will leave a link in the description box down below. Eventually, I will be uploading Rumble exclusive content as well, but for right now, most of my YouTube videos are being uploaded there if you want to follow Truth in Christ there. Also, as a thanks, if you want to give this channel a super thanks, it's nothing that you have to do, but it's just a way to support this channel. Also, becoming a Romans 9:1 supporter, as I mentioned earlier in this video. It's a membership, and as a way of thanking you, it's just like 99 cents a month, but as a way of thanking you, I will give you earlier access to my videos than anybody else. It's just a way of thanking you if you want to support this channel. Again, none of this you have to do. It's just a way that if you want to, if God puts it on your heart to, you can support this channel. And for other ways to support this channel, I left a link in the description box down below. God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.